Hey there, friends and enemies, JoPaWrites here again, and today I want to talk about my ultimate suspension Strand Titan build in Destiny 2 Lightfall because I've been having an absolute blast with this. I have been using it everywhere and anywhere I possibly can because it is so much fun. A lot of people thought the Strand Titan was going to be underwhelming, but I don't find that to be the case at all, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is very, very good in endgame content as well. So, you're going to see in the background gameplay that I am rocking out a 100k Nightfall with randoms, and essentially there are often times where I don't even need to use anti-champion weapons or abilities in order to take down champions. I will take down a barrier champion just by suspending them and then doing a ton of damage with one of my weapons. I don't need to stun them at all. Now, suspending enemies does stun unstoppable champions, so that's easy enough. And I am rocking the Final Warning exotic sidearm, which I can use against the barrier champions barriers, but I don't need to in this video at all because of how I'm able to suspend all the enemies for the barrier champions, and it's pretty hilarious to watch. So how this build works is you're gonna have abilities like your Dranker's Lash, which you can activate your class ability to suspend targets in front of you. Obviously, then we have the Abandoned Leap, which is going to send out 3 different lines that are going to suspend enemies, also given Woven Mail when suspending targets. So that's a big key as well, because I'm going to try to have Woven Mail on as much as possible. So I'm going to toss on a Shackle Grenade, which will suspend targets as well. That's very, very useful. I love both of those. And so I can kind of spam suspend, especially once we dive into the fragments. So we got Thread of Mind, defeating suspended targets grants class ability energy. Again, I'm going to have my class ability all the time. Then we got Thread of Fury, damaging targets with a tangle, grants melee energy. That's just to get my melee back as often as possible. Thread of Transmutation. When you have Woven Mail, Weapon Final Blows creates a tangle. So that's a nice little loop there. You're constantly generating that Woven Mail to create tangles, to generate Woven Mail, so on and so forth. So I love that little loop. And then we've got your Thread of Continuity. Suspend, Unravel, and Sever effects applied to targets have increased duration. Now, the reason that is very, very handy is that, so jumping into the artifact mods that I have on this one this season, we've got Threaded Blast. Destroying a tangle with a strand weapon creates a larger and more damaging explosion, as well as Allied Unraveling. Rapid Final Blows with a strand weapon grants your weapon unraveling rounds. So that works out so well. And then also I've got Counter Reave. When you are a member of your fire team stuns or defeats a champion, you gain energy for your least charged strand ability. So I'm generating those abilities all the time. And obviously the Final Warning sidearm is a strand weapon, so I'm able to use this pretty constantly in order to get the unraveling rounds. I'm also rocking the Circular Logic, which is a strand machine gun. So for this week's Nightfall, it is bonus damage for strand, so that does help as well. And I've got a target lock, the target lock perk on this, so I can do a little damage. I don't have the best roll for Circular Logic yet, but I still very much enjoy using it, especially because I can stow it, and then with some of my mods I can have it fully reloaded every time I pull it out. I'm also rocking Null Composure just because, but I honestly don't use it at all most of the time unless I really want to, or I didn't want to break a Void Shield. But it is there, and it does make this build very, very good, especially when Final Warning won't do the trick. But in the Nightfall this week, it does pretty easily, so you don't have to worry about it. Other than that, my mods are going to be Strand Siphon. Again, Rapid Strand Weapon Final Blows create all power. Generate as many of those as possible. Then we've got the Font of Wisdom, as well as Heavy Ammo Finder, so I can have a lot of ammo for my machine gun. Next up, we've got your melee kickstart. So this is for your melee damage. I just like using the melee a lot. This is probably something better you could use. Like I could throw on Font to Focus instead if I really wanted to get bonus discipline and toss my grenade more. But I just like having my melee up all the time and having all 3 of them if at all possible. Then we've got Heavy Handed, as well as Impact Induction. So when I'm causing damage with my melee attack, I'll reduce my grenade cooldown, so that's a nice little loop as well. Proceeding on, we got Unflinching Harmonic Aim, we've got Charged Up, and then we've got Sniper Damage Resist there, and that was just from just you can throw on any resistance mod there that you want, depending on what type of content. Now we get to some of the good stuff. Strand weapon surge, which is nice if you're not in a Strand weapon surge mode already. Toss that on. We got stacks on stacks, and harmonic holster gradually reloads your Strand weapons over time. This is what gets me my fully reloaded machine gun at all times after I use it, which is nice. Utility kickstart for my class ability. Again, I want to spam my class ability as much as possible. Bomber and then distribution, because I am using my class ability quite often, and it does work in a nice little loop there. So overall, the gameplay is going to look like you pop a barricade, suspend targets, kill those enemies, maybe shoot your throw your grenade if you miss any, or you need to suspend additional targets, and then you can shoot the tangle. I actually used to throw the tangle a lot, but now I feel like shooting it does a lot more damage, at least in the area that I want to. So if you kill one enemy after you've suspended them and you create the tangle, then you're able to shoot the tangle and destroy it. Another nice thing with the final warning, you'll see it in the boss fight, is that projectiles that the enemies send out, the final warning actually can shoot those even though you're firing from the hip. It does track those as well. So if you didn't know, the final warning is very interesting because you're able to hip firing the sidearm projectiles will track marked targets, dealing increased body shot damage. And then if you aim, projectiles will have greatly increased velocity and deal extra critical hit to marked targets. So essentially you can use either one. I hip fire this thing a ton, and it's actually really, really fun for me. It also has the all at once trait, which is holding down the trigger and marks targets within range and loads multiple bullets, which fire in a burst with increased stability and trigger release. Hitting a marked target with a fully charged burst will unravel them. So essentially you can unravel in multiple different ways with this weapon now because of the abilities you have. And that comes in really handy for generating additional tangles, for suspending more enemies, and all that kind of stuff. And it is just a great loop for me personally. I just love the fact that I can roll through content and really just spam my suspend as much as possible. And I'll have my woven mail so I can stay alive easier. There's a couple times where I thought I was definitely dead, but with the woven mail I was able to stay alive, and it just was... such a fun gameplay loop. The super spamming your R2 to send out the waves to suspend enemies and then slashing them down is very fun, and it provides a different gameplay loop than other supers, and because of that I think it's actually better than people anticipated. But overall, you can use this anywhere and everywhere. Again, if you are facing champions or tormentors or anything like that, Hydra especially, or wyverns, all of those can get suspended, and so it makes life against them so much easier. Just like with stasis and you can freeze, only this time the loop is a little bit more interesting because you can target them for precision damage even while they're suspended, which is very, very nice. Overall, I hope you enjoyed the build. I will leave a link to the dim of the build in the comments down below, so definitely check that out if you'd like. I kind of explained everything, but I do like everyone to have quick access to see what I'm working with. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button if you haven't already. I'm gonna have more builds. I'm gonna have probably a build a day for the next few weeks because I've been wanting to try out so many different things. I've been testing everything that I possibly can, so definitely stay tuned for that. My name is JoPa. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.
Champion falls. The right of proving is over. By the victor's rule, the Halphus elect